Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today. It's a pleasure for us from GovTech Connect project to organize these webinars, also to reconnect with our own community, but also to expand it a little bit. So today, the webinar will be focused on the investment in GovTech ecosystem, especially startups in Europe, and we will try to share insights from different perspectives. Yeah, I mean, Jaime already mentioned it, but you can use the chat whenever you want to share insights, also ask questions. Later on during the panel, there will be also another tool, but we will tell you everything in a minute. But please feel free to use the chat. We are recording this webinar because we are then uploading it to our channels so that everybody in the community can watch it again in the future or watch it for if they weren't able to attend today. So just briefly, I told you already what is the objective of the event. This is the agenda, so we will start with Stefanos, who is from DigiDigit. So he will tell us a little more about the Public Sector Tech Watch Observatory and the awards that they are trying to assign. So it's also an opportunity for you. And then there will be me. I know more or less that you probably are aware of our project, but give you just a little glimpse of what are the last achievements and what are the next steps. And then we will deep dive in our panel discussion with Ibrahim Koran from Iliad, which is a venture capital firm. And he will tell us a bit more about the focus they have on GovTech. Then Jeremy Shivnazzi, I hope I pronounced it well, and he's an investor and a startup mentor. So he will tell us what is his experience in working with startups and how GovTech ecosystem can leverage from other sectors. And then Farouk Tanker, and again, I hope I pronounce it well, and Cesar Lopez Caparros. They are two CEOs from two different startups in the GovTech ecosystem that have experience with investment. So they can hopefully share some experience to the whole group. And then I will close the event. So after the panel, you will have the chance to ask all the questions. So it is meant to be really an interactive webinar. So feel free to really ask whatever you feel it's relevant for you and your experience. So without further ado, I will leave the floor to Stefanos Kotoglu.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sarah, Marta, Jaime, for the organization of this webinar. I'm glad to see around people from around Europe and venture capitalists, public sector and private companies. So I will just dive into my presentation directly without any further ado. What I'm presenting here is the Public Sector Tech Watch, which is an initiative we launched last year, end of last year. And actually, it's an observatory where public administrations, they publish their innovative solutions that they have been developed by the private sector. So online already we have more than 1.5 thousand cases, the majority of which are on AI. Of course, we are further trying to populate it with other cases and mainly with new technologies like the generative AI. And this is our goal, to bring together and share opportunities and seize actually opportunities between the stakeholders for reusing, implementing, or help each other to find a solution for innovative solutions in the public administration. So as I said, it's for public sector officials. It refers to public sector officials, to companies, academia, of course, that can benefit by using our database for different research purposes, and also us actually with their studies to further improve or focus on specific cases. And why actually it has been created. Based on studies from JRC, we collected already a bit below of 1,000 cases back in 2022. So we build upon this and we created this observatory that actually aims, first of all, to bring public administrations there and also to create the connections with the private sector. And GovTech Connect does a wonderful work there by bringing you all together with the bootcamps and all the trainings and information sessions, so that at the end of the day, I think our goal is to create this matchmaking to further enhance innovation in the public administrations. If you can go to the next slide, Sarah. Yes. So what someone can do in our website, first of all, is of course to join the community, be updated on what's going on there, the stories that we have, the new cases that they are uploaded. And the second thing, it's a feature that we provide to everyone to upload actually their cases. When I say everyone, okay, it's also private sector, but we encourage the submission of the cases by the public administration, of course, in collaboration with private actors, so that they increase their visibility, so that people, they are aware of what's going on, and also if there is further interest, to get in touch with you to, I don't know, further scale up the use case, or even create collaboration bonds. Also, what is important, and what actually Sarah mentioned, is that we also run in parallel the Best Cases Award. The submission is still on. The deadline is mid-July. And actually, what we want to do is further encourage and also show our respect and give our credits to the best cases. And I invite you to get in touch with your public administrations that you work with and you developed, or you have a pilot use case, to submit the case. The Best Cases Award will take place this fall in Budapest under the presidency, the Hungarian presidency. So I look forward for more participation. And as I said, it's an open call for you to provide your case. I'm not sure if there is another slide for me. No, thank you, Marta. So at this stage, I just want to wish you again a very nice and fruitful discussion, and very good panel discussion later on. Thank you very much. And please, again, just have a look in our website and submit your case if feasible.
So if there are questions, just let us know, because okay. So thank you. Then I will just give a glimpse on our project. So the GovTech Connect project that started last year, we are in the final 6 months. So it has been run for 1 year and a half. The objective, as you know, was to mainly to create a GovTech community in Europe, putting together all the stakeholders. So startups are one of the main ones, and for this reason we established different channels, the community online. We organized these events like today. We also organize, and this is a very important piece of our project, the bootcamps that most of you probably participated in, and we are also doing some research, especially also on the part of citizen engagement and design thinking. So all these activities are meant to create this ecosystem and create a GovTech marketplace, and also strengthen the solutions that we have in Europe, also with some principles of citizen-centric approach. I already mentioned a little bit of what we did in this 18th month. So we are we just wrap up the third bootcamp and the second pitch day, because the first pitch day was for the first 2 bootcamps together. And then we had a lot of focus group with different experts and many webinars and some design thinking workshops. The community has been growing a lot. So now, for example, in LinkedIn, we are more than 2,000, and also in the Interoperable Europe portal, which is our, let's say, community on the platform from the Commission. We are more than 300, and we are sponsoring your adherence to this community. So please go ahead if you aren't already there. We have many experts that were involved also in the bootcamps, but also in the other events, and around 40 startups that participated to the bootcamps. Of course, as Stefanos is testimony of that, we are also connecting with the other projects and initiatives from the European Commission, and also not just the European, but also beyond our continent, so also international ones. So again, also our project has still a call open. This is the one for the bootcamp of Eastern Europe. It is still open, so if you have, let's say, a draft for submission, you have still some days to finalize it and finally send it. But also, if you want to start a new one, you still have some days, so please go ahead, don't be shy and apply. This will be a bootcamp mainly for Eastern Europe startups, and will be run from between September and October. Then the final pitch day of this bootcamp will be in the final assembly, and this is going to be organized in Budapest, the 18th of October. It's going to be a big event because we want to bring all the community that we built during these 2 years. It is going to be a back-to-back event with the Interoperable Europe conference, so there will be also the chance to go the day before and meet also other stakeholders from the whole European ecosystem. You will learn. You probably will be invited if you were part of the project, but also you will learn from interesting panel, some policymakers, and so on and so forth. So we will try to bring you all there. And in fact, you can already visit the website and register so that you can already know and book your flight to come there. Okay, and then I think it's all. So I leave the floor to Marta to coordinate this panel on investing in Europe's GovTech future.
Hi everyone, I'm Marta Bertoni from Intelera Consulting. Before delving into the panel, we would like this webinar to be really interactive. We are not many, so there is the possibility to be very in touch, in contact. So we would like to know a little bit more about yourself. Who do we have in the audience to hear? And a little bit more also about your insights. What do you think about this market? So it's going to be really quick, a quick poll on Slido. You can scan the QR code, or there is also the link in chat. If you have any problem, of course, let us know. I think we can open the first poll, the first question. No.
Are you able to access the Slido?
Okay. We access, but we don't see the poll, Jaime.
We can do it later also. Okay. Okay, anyway, the Slido can be used also for the Q&A. So if you have any question, I see already a new question that we can then maybe address. But I think we can start with the panel, since maybe we can reconnect later with the poll. So I'm really happy to present you our panelists today. Ibrahim Koran, already Sarah gave an overview, but we have Ibrahim Koran, Farouk Tuture, Jeremy Schnazi, and Cesar Lopez Caparros here with us today. I will stop sharing so that we can see and pin the speakers. Okay, thank you so much for being here today. And I would like to start with you, Ibrahim, if you're okay. So Sarah already anticipated a bit, but you recently teamed up with Elliot to establish a dedicated GovTech investment practice. And you already started to deploy capital. So if you can present a little bit more about yourself, your experience, your work, and also it would be very interesting to know which potential do you see in the GovTech market? What led you to this decision?
All right, thank you very much for having me. I think GovTech Connect is a great opportunity to not only connect, but also exchange.
Sorry, it would be possible to speak a little bit higher because it's very low, the volume.
Okay, I'll speak up. I hope the network quality is good enough. Thanks for having me. I think GovTech Connect gives a great opportunity to exchange and to work together on this exciting topic and the market. I teamed up with Heliad after being a couple of years in public sector consulting, where I worked not only with the Commission, but also with federal government in Germany. And I recently, before joining Heliad, was in charge of the GovTech practice at PwC Germany, where we already teamed up with startups to deliver services to governments, but also to open the door for young startups to enter the market and work with government entities. So what I do at Heliad right now is coming up with, I guess, what I would call the first dedicated GovTech investment strategy in the VC market in Europe. And what we actually like to do with that is to foster and make the ground for what we call GovTech, which is based on basically 3 pillars driven by our investment hypothesis. And these are mainly in the area of security and defense, then in the area of core government, but also what we call e-government, digital government, and then on the pillar of digital public infrastructure. So let me a bit explain why I see such a potential. I mean, we live in very dynamic geopolitical times, and as most of you would agree, we have a war in Europe next to our doors, and this contributes, of course, to increased government spending in that area. And besides the defense situation, we also face increased cyber attacks, not only in the private sector, but of course also on public administration or public entities. And we think that after having looked at some of the recent studies, which estimate the damage done by cyber attacks only in 2024 would be $9.5 trillion. So this is immense damage, which can be prevented if you engage with cybersecurity companies, and there are quite many companies doing this and also able to work with governments. So this is one aspect we are looking into when I talk of security and defense. But then, of course, only briefly touching on the potential of defense and what's already going on there. It's like we have players like Helsing for AI. We have Quantum Systems or ARX. They produce drones, autonomous vehicles, and some of their valuations already after a couple of years only in the market exceed 3 billion euro. If you look at the US market, you will see companies like Anduril, for example. Anduril just recently had a valuation of $12.5 billion. This is a major player, and of course, then from an investor perspective, also an opportunity to enter such markets. But let me touch on the second pillar I wanted to talk about the adoption of tech-driven solutions in core government and what the potential is there. Recent McKinsey study found that there's a potential of $480 billion in productivity increase in the public sector only by the use of Gen AI. So looking at AI and everything which is connected to data-driven services or informed services for decision-making is highly interesting from an investor perspective. And Faruk, I'm looking at you since Politeia does some work in that field, but you might explain this later. And I think that if you look at European governments, and speaking from a German perspective, government processes remain highly inefficient because of a lack of data, because of a lack of connected systems. And there is a potential to solve this with digital solutions. And what I would say contributes to the attractiveness of the market is what recently was launched as interoperability, because this enables scaling of business models across different jurisdictions. And we see that as one of the major contributors to making this market even more attractive. Speaking of service delivery in governments, this is not only a fact which is interesting from an investor perspective, but also, and highly so, from a citizen perspective, where I would say it not only enables business cases, but it contributes to the acceptance of what governments are actually doing. And then let me touch on the third pillar I mentioned earlier. Infrastructure and the transformation, and not only transformation, but also the maintenance of infrastructure is highly dependent on digital solutions. But having solutions which contribute to maintenance and contribute to the modernization of this infrastructure is something which will definitely play a crucial role for, first of all, sovereignty, but then also of the resilience of governments. And we see some very interesting cases there, cases enabled by, for example, satellite data and AI, which contribute to making grids, but also transport and road maintenance. But then, on the other hand, this also touches or goes beyond the classical road maintenance and so on, but also if we talk of smart cities, for example, in the ESG sector. So there's the possibility with sensor networks to see air quality, but also enable sustainability and energy planning in cities in a smart way. For example, we are looking at some business cases across Europe where companies or startups try to help local governments setting up decentralized photovoltaics to contribute to the clean energy transformation. But in short, maybe just with some numbers, we see a strong growth in the market. It's estimated to be a 30% CAGR. And then this is something I stress everywhere I got the possibility to speak, because if you look at governments are the biggest buyers, the biggest procurers everywhere. So the overall market globally is twice as big as the fintech market. Yet, or still, there are countless fintech VCs investing in each and every fintech case, but there's literally, at least speaking of Europe, no dedicated GovTech VC. And this is definitely a gap which can be closed in the near future. And then maybe just another number which might be interesting for the startups here. We have still the potential at this day to unlock 200 billion euro in public tender volume, just in Europe. So there's a big potential, and it's highly interesting from an investor perspective.
Thank you so much, Juren. That's very interesting and there is a lot of potential here. You mentioned him before, so now we remain in Germany as we go to another German speaker, Faruk. which is the CEO and founder of Politeia. Last year, you raised 5 million in a funding round led by HV Capital. So that's very interesting. That's why we have you here, to hear your experience. Can you talk a little bit more about yourself as well, about Politeia? What do you think was in particular the success factor and distinguishing factor when it comes to raising funds?
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm the founder and CEO of Politeia. I am socialized in public policy, so I worked on the other side. I worked for the Christian Democrats when Angela Merkel was still in power back in 2016 and 17 as a policy advisor. So I looked into politics. While I liked politics, I didn't like being in that system. I thought I'm more of use outside and wanted to disrupt, because I also saw in how big pain the sector is regarding to their operations. So everything is, as Ibrahim mentioned very well, scattered in Word and Excel files and legacy systems that look like Windows 95, and also in processes that are from the 90s, and we need to change that for sure. And that's why I came to the conclusion we need companies on the level of Silicon Valley ventures that help the government solving these challenges with data, with AI, with great user experience and platform and infrastructure that deserves that name. I founded Politeia with the mission to bring data-driven government to life. We started with decision making, but also now are deeper into the operations of government. What do we do at Politeia? So we've built a platform that can integrate data from various sources like legacy systems, but also files in the government. We can also collect data through forms when no data is there, and help then the decision makers in local governments, in federal governments, also in state governments, to be informed about what they do, be proactive and solve the issues before they become a real challenge and a problem. We do that for over 100 governments across Germany in all levels. So where, for example, we do that for the use case of demographic analysis for social infrastructure planning for a lot of municipalities. We do HR analytics for larger government bodies. We also do crisis monitoring with that and help with like economic development. All of this includes the same thing. You have a lot of data that you need to analyze, and we can connect these sources and you can kind of build great reports. The secret sauce that we brought to this is basically two. The government is full of experts in their domain. The government is not full of experts regarding IT and data and AI. So what you need to do is the scarce resources that governments have, the few kind of experts, need to deliver to a lot of subject matter experts. And that's why we made all our products in a no-code fashion, so that a few experts can deliver to many, like I would say, AI and data illiterate people, but they are just interested in the domain so that they can answer their questions properly without having to consult experts all the time. And this is how we made it possible. You asked me how we raised. I think, to be honest, we were quite early in the market maturity. As you see, Ibrahim just founded the first GovTech dedicated fund in Europe, and Politeia just raised the largest VC round, pure VC fund round for a GovTech ever in Europe as well. And I think that's then you can see that's where we are in the market. So you brought already the pioneers in the room. I think the market will develop over time. What we've done probably is we have to solve a chicken and egg problem, and we tried to solve that, and I tried to solve that on that side as a founder. VC funds are coming from a completely different corner sector-wise. So they usually have LPs that are banks or former founders themselves from the internet economy. The internet economy, I think, is the farthest away from government as you can be. The B2B economy, I would say it's closer. And then we had to kind of find a language for VC funds to show that we are not so far away as a GovTech market from the B2B enterprise world. We just have a few specificities. Governments are not competing against each other. They are like a monopolistic super corporate. in that world to be translated, and they have a lot of entities that you can serve to, but they have also procurement and budgeting cycles that you need to cater to. But we did in that round, we explained how government works. We explained what that would translate to B2B, and then we backed it up with our traction. And I think the most important part is those who have traction and are from the government, like I am, usually can't translate that to the B2B lingo of VC funds. And I think that was one of the pillars, how we made it. But in the end, you also need to find a fund that fits to you. Most VCs think that governments are not worth pursuing as an opportunity. I think that's a misconception, but it's out there. And you need to find the fund that backs this up, or find a fund that gives the signaling and can do the translation job, like, for example, Ibrahim's fund is doing. And I think that's important for early founders to understand. And we've managed to close that bridge. I hope that helped the market also for other founders to follow. But this is how we've done it. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's absolutely interesting, and a lot of hope, let's say, for the people that are now present. And now I turn to Jeremy, since your perspective here, it's particularly interesting as you are very integrated into the startup ecosystem as a mentor, as an investor yourself, but you don't specifically work with GovTech startups. It's a good segue to the Farouk intervention. I think after, again, as we introduced yourself, your work, can you discuss why do you think it might be difficult for GovTech startups? It is difficult actually for GovTech startups to access fundings from VCs or investors like yourself.
Thank you. Farouk is not going to like me very much, no. It's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you very much. So my name is Jeremy Skinazi, and I wear a few different hats in the startup ecosystem. As an investor, very small one, an advisor to founder, CEO, and operating partners who accelerate with my teams the fast and sustainable growth of young companies. And over the years, I've had the privilege of working with a variety of startups across different sectors, helping them scale, navigate challenges, and secure funding. And while my primary focus hasn't been on GovTech, I've observed the landscape closely and understand some of the unique challenges these startups are facing. So now to answer your question, GovTech startups have a unique set of hurdles, problems when it comes to securing funding from venture capitalists or investors like myself. So in my opinion, there are a few reasons. The first one is the sales cycle. So as you target governments, the sales cycle in this space can be extremely long and complex. Like Farouk mentioned, the procurement process are often very slow, highly regulated, involve multiple layers of approval. So for an investor, this translates into a longer path to revenue and profitability. So it's a little bit scary. The second reason is regulatory challenges, compliance. Because when you work with governments, it means that you have to navigate a web of regulations, compliance requirements. So it's extremely resource intensive, time consuming. It delays sometimes product development and market entry. So once again, investors are a bit cold for this reason. The third point I wanted to address is the perceived risk and the stability from an investor's point of view. Government budgets and priorities can change with political cycles, making revenue streams potentially unstable. So the risk of policy changes can impact the viability of the project. Also, the scalability concerns can be a point that we might want to discuss. Investors look usually into scalable business models that can rapidly expand across different markets, which is not always a possibility when it comes to GovTech solutions. Also, I would want to mention the exit opportunities. And all of this is not to depress you or scare you. It's just that these are attention points that you have to raise when presenting your project to potential investors. These will be their concerns, so make sure you address these points in order to reassure them on these matters. So I was saying the exit opportunities, usually the potential for exit through acquisition or IPO is a critical consideration for investors. This is the best case scenario, of course. So the pool of potential acquirers for GovTech startups is often very limited. So that's something to address, to try to identify the potential exit strategies and the potential buyers for your company. And lastly, I would want to talk about the social and political consideration. Investing in GovTech also means dealing with the social and political implications of the technology being deployed. So you have to pay attention to when it comes to government contracts that can raise more risk for investors. So in conclusion, I would say that despite these challenges, it's important to acknowledge that the GovTech sector is incredibly vital and has an immense potential to drive social improvement and efficiencies in public services. And I'm sure Farouk has a lot of examples for that. For GovTech startups, finding investors who have a strong alignment with their mission and a willingness to navigate these unique troubled waters is crucial. So try to find people who are invested in the same sense of responsibility and citizenship as you are, and are not so bottom line focused, at least at the beginning. Eventually, of course, things will change. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. As you said, now you have break the attention point, and in a second I will ask you about the solution to this attention point. So that's going to be very interesting. Thank you. Now, Cesar, you're the last one. Your startup, Finspo, a GovTech startup, has been selected this year in the court of the QBE Insurance Accelicity Resilience Challenge that offers to provide also access to significant funding opportunities. So if you can present, again, as I asked to the others, if you can briefly present yourself, your solution, your startup, and why do you think, how did you achieve this milestone, and why do you think it's, these kind of opportunities are particularly important for GovTech startups?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. Yes, so I'm Cesar Lopez, founder of Finspo. We are, do you hear me, guys? Because I have some, you hear me well? Okay. We are a startup working in the demographic resilience GovTech stage that is not so easy. So we are, let's say we are a deep tech that tries to bring not only technology to digitalize the government, tries to also implement some disruptive technology. In this case, we just not analyze data. We are able to analyze data. We are able also to combine different neuronal networks regarding what it means, climate shock, actually also in the future. So we are stuck in representing people, fauna, and flora. And we also use generative adversarial networks to generate unique data that the governments could use to design their demographic risk and to face the problems related to inner migration workflows and other problems. As you know, they are actually on the news, that they are constantly changing and became a really, really important topic to face for the following generations. And for us, QB Insurance Accelicity was a unique opportunity to enter in the Australian market. As all the colleagues mentioned, to scale a GovTech startup is probably one of the toughest things I did in my life. And I'm running 20 kilometers, 40 kilometers, and I guess scale a GovTech is even tougher. So it's really complicated, regulations and many other aspects. Also, the problematic regarding that sometimes you need also to open office in each country you want to soft land. So there is a lot of factors that you need to consider if you want to scale a GovTech startup nowadays. I hope in the future change. And Australia was for us not even mine, no? So we are particularly happy because it's a GovTech accelerator, top 5 in the world, that combines an interesting formula, that is the grant formula, and also a POC payet. In this case, it's interesting because it's not a pure GovTech. So we work for the government in order to deliver data to the insurtech sector. So it's I don't know exactly. This is a crossover between PropTech and GovTech, insurtech and GovTech, and give us the possibility that not be a pure GovTech that also all the colleagues mentioned that sometimes is scaring all the investors around the world. So we were in Redwood City in Silicon Valley talking about GovTech, and VCs were not really open. Also in other ecosystems like Berlin, fortunately there is Eliad doing a really good job, but it's not so common that when we talk about B2G, sometimes even we don't mention GovTech. The investors are not so participative. And yeah, so for us means the opportunity to open a new market, to also increase the valuation. As you know, a startup with multiple markets is always more interesting for funding. And we are really happy because in this case is also collaboration with the Red Cross in Australia, based in Boston. And we also understand that the possibility to operate in the United States, where the interoperability is way much more easier in terms of regulation and other aspects, will be a significant opportunity for us in 2024.
Thank you, Cesar. Thank you so much. That's very interesting to have insight also on your strategy. And I will ask you later to talk about some recommendation on your side. I see, before going into the second round of questions, I see a comment in the chat: startups can survive the timelines that governments operate at. It takes years to get a deal done. Startups die in that time, and fintech is faster. That's a comment from Vladimir, but I think we have already addressed Jeremy and Ibrahim, I think, and also Farouk in your intervention. I think we have already addressed this point. So that's actually Farouk, yes? If you want to elaborate on this. Yep.
Maybe let's get some discussion here. So I think it's a big misconception that it takes years to close a deal in the government. It took me 3 months when I founded the company, and it takes us 6 for average deals and 9 months for like larger deals. I think I don't know where these years come from. It's probably defense, but also defense contracts are like many millions. So I would rather like to talk about the facts here. That's not true. Yeah, but please tell me if you think this is, you have benchmarks and numbers to back this up, but I don't think that's true.
I guess it depends from experience to experience from the sector. I don't know, Cesar, if you want to. I saw you unmute, and also Jeremy. So maybe Cesar, I saw him unmuting.
From country to country, it changes. I think you're pretty lucky with your 6 to 9 months cycle, Farouk. We're not exactly there in France, but definitely targeting these kind of numbers. It's extremely long, just even to have a meeting or reach out to the right person. It's there's so many barriers.
But that's interesting that you say that, Jeremy, because when I talk to other founders that raised, they have similar sales cycles. Maybe I think because maybe that's a piece of advice I can offer to the ones that are looking. Governments are a bit harder to qualify in the sales process. You know, first of all, they have more time than the fintech counterparts in the corporates, so they are not so ROI driven. So they talk to you a lot. But then there is no one kind of then doing the process. They can talk a lot and then you're not landing anything. But we've realized over years, and the mistake we've done, I'm doing that for 6 years now, is that you really have to be strict with your time. So if you realize that they don't have a budget title right running, they don't have this pain, you should actually not talk to them. So this is my advice to the founders, like focus on the governments that really resemble the pain that you're targeting. And I can just name a couple of other founders like Some AI, Vialytics. Vialytics is also operating in France and in the US. They have the same sales cycles. It's not that they have like so large sales cycles. And I think it is in the end also a bit homework of the founders to find a good sales motion to qualify better. Because if you are spreading to all the governments, right? I mean, I have plenty of examples where I also waited a year, but they never close. They'll not actually to close it. They're just like talking to you, but maybe. And in the B2B world, you would also probably not talk to those folks. But in the government, it's a bit harder to understand because they always talk to you.
Thank you, Farouk. I don't know, Cesar, if you wanted to say something.
Yeah, so I guess give us the answer, Ibrahim. So it depends of the vertical. So if you work for defense, Ibrahim, probably the sales cycle will be way much large that if, for example, you are working in the digitalization of the administration. So there is, I guess it depends of the stage of the market and also the different targets you need to manage. In our case, that we work with people, so GPER, so the AI, the new European AI regulation, we work with migration. The sales cycle, Jeremy, is really large. I like to say we are more gov and less tech, but we want to be really tech. But they don't let us to be tech. They push us to be gov. So it's like a ping pong, because sometimes our technology is really interesting from the political side in order to boost social innovation and new other, it's part also of the political campaign. And in this case, we also need a regulation that protect us as a software company, because we want to be a product builder. We are not a consulting company. So our sales cycle, Farouk, is only really small when the big four take part of the event, or when someone has already the contract, say, hey guys, do you know how to do it? Is complicated, but I understand that if you have the sales engineering performing really good, so you just make it perfect, and now the magic stuff appears, but it's not for all the startups.
Thank you, Cesar. I would go on with the second round of questions. Farouk, you already gave some recommendations. You already gave your insights. And I think you already spoke about a bit about the challenges that you encountered when looking for investment. I don't know if you want to elaborate a little bit more on that and give also some advice additional, if you have something more to say on this.
Yeah, I would say, as I would just repeat, GovTech, yes, the only difference, I would say, there are two differences for selling to government. And this is, I would say, 10% of the homework. It's not trivial, but it's important. So the first part is really qualification. If you qualify well, that means to understand how government works, and governments don't have return on invest logics. I don't know if government is in the audience, but you have mandates and duties, which are not bound to political cycle, by the way. It's actually just like, yeah, it comes from the political cycle because it's laws that drive you, but then it's administrative processes. And you need to nail the administrative processes and the nature of these processes. And then you're basically also immune to political cycle because it's about the public servants and not about the politicians. And then if you nailed that, then you basically need to do the same thing as B2B. A good process where you're going to do the qualification, the stage as well, iterate, improve. And at the end, this is the part where it's really just government specific, and that's the procurement part. And I think, Cesar, you mentioned something really interesting that's also important. It was a game changer for us, is that you team up with procurement vehicles that can improve your procurement performance. You don't need to do every tender yourself. You can team up with the Big Four. They have usually large framework agreements where they can subcontract you, or you can also just work on framework agreements with, for example, public IT service providers they're there to procure you because the individual government entity can't do that. They are, as I said, domain driven, not IT driven. And then what we've done early on is we installed a person that is just responsible for alliances and responsible for closing framework agreements for Politeia, so that we can sell later with our sales engine into all the entities that are connected to a framework agreement. With framework agreements, I mean like that you get procured for a larger volume of potential deals that you can then materialize if there's a need from the respective government entities. I think if you can explain that to investors, that you basically applied B2B SaaS best practice with these specificities, and that then you can show it in your traction, I don't see like per se why an VC should not invest. But then I'm also on Jeremy's side. There are all these conceptions also about government and the risks that are perceived that are not all kind of taken away just by explaining what I just explained. So they also needs to be faith from the funds. Otherwise, you can tell a lot of success, but they will wait, and then you're a large company, and then it's too late to invest.
Great, thank you. I would go back to Ibrahim. Ibrahim, you explained earlier the potential you see. You have already answered actually to this question, but maybe I can ask you to elaborate a little bit. Do you think there is a growing movement? Do you see other players, like other VCs like yourself? Maybe not since you're probably the first one, the pioneer, but maybe is there an interest and direction that are following your same direction? And I would also like to ask you if you have any other recommendation to add in addition to this.
Okay, let me maybe first answer the first part. Of course, we are the first moving like pure play GovTech, but what I found also recently, I went to the Super Venture Super Return, which is one of the leading investors fairs, also with the LPs there. I found that there is an increasing buzz around the GovTech topic, and not only because defense is, I would call it en vogue now, there are big cases, but also the core GovTech thing is increasingly interesting because some of the big VCs or the generalist VCs move a bit away from the old B2B SaaS or fintech logics, and so they seem to explore it a bit, as maybe in Faruk's case, where one of the largest generalist funds in Germany invested because they found the opportunity very compelling. But it's also the impact investors who found some appetite in the government sector if it comes to topics like fostering ESG or democracy, safeguarding against mis or disinformation. And so I think there's increasing buzz. And if you look at the US, the VCs, the big players already discovered GovTech, and the investments in GovTech startups or the GovTech companies are quite common there. Even PE cases already done in that field. And so I think we have to be not patient, but we have to connect and exchange each other better here to also help this market grow in Europe as well. But there is appetite. But what I would give as a recommendation, and I think Cesar already mentioned it and Faruk touched on the topic as well, you have to find smart money in the market. You have to find VCs who understand this vertical, who understand how procurement works a bit, how the business model work in this field, and who might also bring a certain understanding and network in the field to help. Because you certainly do not want stupid money. This will create misunderstandings, and in the end, may even contribute to failing a business case.
Thank you, Ibrahim. And I think this leads well also to the question I wanted to pose to Jeremy, because I would like to ask you as well some advice. And do you think that emphasizing and leveraging, do you agree with Jeremy, emphasizing actually and leveraging the social impact could be a valuable selling point for attracting investments?
Yes, totally. So emphasizing, of course, the social impact of your solution, of your technology, of your company can be a powerful selling point. Investors are increasingly looking at the broader impact of their investment, not just the financial returns. So highlighting how your product or service improves the public service or enhances efficiency or promotes transparency, accountability can resonate well with impact investors and public and private partnership funds. So storytelling is absolutely key in how you present your company and your project. Illustrate the real world benefits and social improvements that your technology can deliver.
Thank you, Jeremy. And last but not least, Cesar, given the discussion until now, what is your view? You have already elaborated a bit, and which recommendation would you give to startups given your experience?
So yeah, I guess there is a few best practice we are doing at the moment. We learn from fail day to day. First of all, to define yourselves as a pure GovTech, especially if you need to raise initial capital, seems to be not the best way to do it, because Ibrahim and probably the rest of the team, Farouk and Jeremy, probably they are agree. I don't meet any business angel for GovTech or any super business angel for the GovTech sector. But if you know one of them, I will be really I will be really happy to say hello and congratulate. Try to understand GovTech as one revenue stream and try to play across different use cases without to lose the focus. So at the end, if your goal is to sell to the administration, at least in Spain, you need timing. So a company needs to be a company minimum between 1 and 2 years old. That this is against of the startup philosophy. So you need to find a combination of smart money or just to apply a few challenges to different municipalities, knowing that you need to keep as much as possible your guidelines in the product roadmap. Otherwise, you will be stuck in the middle and probably you will fail, because one of the other things we realize by failing and learning is banks, they like governments, but they don't advance the money from the government really easy. So we ask for some invoice financing with the government, to not mention any government in concrete, from a few municipalities and some local governments in Spain, and they don't advance the money, or if they advance the money is really expensive in terms of financial cost. So try to understand your roadmap, product roadmap, and company roadmap, knowing these pain points, and also don't be afraid to partner with big players, as Farouk say, because sometimes it's the back door to enter in a big contract and just to success in a few months. So it's I guess to sell resilient solutions to the government needs a really resilient founder as well. So this will be my advice, to not give up.
Thank you, Cesar. I see Jeremy as a hand.
Yes, so I see that from the poll that we have 75% of the population here that are startup representatives. So I wanted to elaborate a little bit on a few key points where they could be vigilant and raise their chances of not only raising money, but build a fast and sustainable growth for the company. So yes, to go back on what Cesar was saying, I think being patient and persistent, showing resilience is absolutely crucial. It's key. One, considering the sales cycle that is quite long, even if in best case scenario you can close a deal in 3 months, it's still a long sales cycle for a startup. A lot happens in 3 months. cash burn sometimes is very high, and 3 months can be very costly. So stay committed, keep building relationships, be persistent in your efforts. Also, and you might all be aware of this already, but this is an important point. I think we have to mention it, is that many governments offer grants, support programs specifically designed to support innovation on a governmental level. So leverage these resources. All you can eat on the all you can eat model. Also, a good way to reassure investors, both private and public, is to demonstrate proven results. All investors, both public and private, are risk averse, even though we're in the risk business. It's very contradictory, but it's a truth. So reassuring with proven results, case studies, pilot project results, measurable outcomes from your technology will definitely build trust. Also, an important point to address, and we mentioned it when we discussed the flags that could be raised, it's the scalability. So focus on the scalability of your technology, finding a balance between customization and scalability is vital, because you can get into a deep hole if you start to build a custom solution just for the specific need of closing a contract. So develop a core product that can be easily adapted for various clients without extensive re-engineering. And the last point I would suggest is to develop strong partnership. I think Cesar mentioned it as a joke, but definitely try to establish relationship with large consulting firms. It will definitely open doors, provide credibility, and help you scale more effectively. And also, I would say consider partnerships with other startups to offer comprehensive solutions that are more attractive sometimes to government clients. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I see in the chat there was an intervention from, I guess, a startup. They have a contract in the US federal government, and their software is being used in 10 German municipalities. What would you say are the challenges for scaling in the EU, given the different nature of each member state, which is the million-dollar question, because also the European Commission is leading a lot of studies on this. I will leave you a link, which was a past webinar organized by the JRC that is doing a study exactly on this point, on the factors that are hindering or cross-border expansions of the startups. I don't know if anyone from the panel wants to address this question. It goes a bit beyond the scope of the discussion, but I think it could be interesting if anyone has to say. Otherwise, there is the link if you want to further deep dive into this topic. I don't know, Farouk, if you have experience in scaling inside the EU, and if you have any advice on this.
I would say to the one that asked the question, that's already a big accomplishment that you managed to close a US deal and German deals. And I would say if you can put that into a playbook and repeat it in the EU, that would be already a big success. I don't think you will have any acceleration by the fact that you're in the EU, because the countries have different languages, and therefore you need to set up kind of a localized sales process. But you don't have different regulation. I mean, that's important to say, right? The way you can tackle these markets are, you don't have any different, for example, procurement regulation. It's EU law. Data protection law is EU law. The ID, for example, is harmonized. There's the interoperability framework, of course, not implemented yet, but there are many things to come that are GovTech specific. So the time is on your side. But I would say compared to the US, where you can speak the same language and probably also have like different regulation in the different states, in the EU, you just have to kind of localize and at least can rely on harmonized procurement law and data protection law. But I would say you're more equipped than other startups that have just one country. So I would build on the insights how you've managed kind of to already close two markets.
Thank you. I see there is another question from the slide. Again, this is a bit of more of a general GovTech team, the question, but how can we get governments to move faster integrating the use of government of GovTech? Another $1 million question that it would be very interesting to know the answer to. I don't know here, Ibrahim, if you have any idea on what could be your role also as a VC, as a GovTech VC. Also, Farouk, I see that you have hands raised. Whoever wants to speak.
Maybe let me take this one first. Not speaking as a VC, but as a former Big Four consultant, also setting up the cooperation practice. The time is right to team up with the consultancies because they understood the importance of new technology in Europe, and they are more than willing, I guess, to include tech assets and also your products in their consulting business, but don't get eaten by them. So be a bit cautious, but play it well. And on the other hand, there's still so much to do. I cannot say from a VC point of view how we can support governments buying tech, but what we can do is trying to bridge the gap and trying to fill trying to be the missing puzzle part of the funding in that sphere.
Jeremy, I see you raise your hand.
Yes, to complement what Ibrahim is saying, I think that in order to accelerate this process, the best way would be to have a startup founder as a president, because it's not a matter of institution, it's a matter of mindset. Very experimental, very agile, short cycles. It's all a matter of mindset. So at least have national and local authorities spend more time in incubators with startup founders, just so they can transpire a little bit their DNA.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Yep.
Farouk,
May I add to from the experience of scaling already? I think the biggest obstacle still is that you have to open up framework agreements like so regionally and then state by state, and then you have member state by member state. There is a concept in the UK, it's called G-Cloud, where if you get accredited and registered and procured into that G-Cloud, the members, which are all the government entities in the UK, can participate and purchase you much faster than if they would do so outside of the G-Cloud, outside of this procurement vehicle. And what we need is a bold move by the European Union, because the law actually could allow that, to build a European procurement vehicle based on the member states, that they can list preferred partners, portfolio companies from GovTechs, and that they can sell in-house, kind of. If you're a preferred partner of that vehicle and you need to comply with cloud regulation, with some integrations into legacy systems, ID components, payment components, and you're part of it, that you can then be procured very fast. I think that's something we really need to have in Europe, because otherwise, go back to the question I scaled from the US to Germany, you have to always repeat that. But if we could at least make procurement faster to that would help already, so that we are competing, with our sales engines against each other, but not kind of having these intransparent, imbalanced, and kind of, not clear market conditions. That would be an amazing. I think the G-Cloud is a really good concept. In Germany, the GovTech campus is doing that now, but it's still all national. And I think that's our biggest problem in Europe. That is all just national and not on the European level.
Very interesting insights. I don't know if you have any other final words, but I think the panel might be concluded. Is there any final question, from the audience? I think we can proceed then with closing. There's been a very, very interesting discussion, and I thank you all. And now we proceed with the closing address. Okay.
Okay, so thank you, and Marta already thank you a lot. So just to wrap up, of course, you will have the link of this event in our channels. So if you want to go back, and also if you want to get some contacts, just refer to our project if you need any other information. As we mentioned before, we have our GovTech Connect Assembly in October, so you can start registering to it, and we will come back also with news and updates on it, but you already can flag that on your calendar. And again, there are the final days open for your application for Bootcamp 4, or if you know somebody that would be interested, just spread the word. There are very few days left. And then something that we didn't mention before, but we are also publishing on the EU Academy some trainings specific for GovTech, for citizen engagement, and so on and so forth. So if you register to our community, you will know all about that. And of course, also the other events that will be organized. So how to become an ambassador, a member of the community? I hope most of you already are, but just a few steps. So you can connect on LinkedIn, but then go to join up or the Interoperable Europe platform. Now it's called like that. And you will find our collection. You can, if you are already a member of the, let's say, EU platform, so if you have ECAS, you can already join directly the collection. Otherwise, you can also create your own account and then connect and be part of our collection. Then follow us on LinkedIn, and feel free also to share through LinkedIn and also join up for Interoperable Europe collection your content. So if you are a member of the collection, you can publish documentation, promote an event, publish an article. So feel free to use that platform, to use that community. And I think that's all for today. Thank you very much for joining, and also for the panelists and Stefanos, and for all of you that were part of this webinar. Thank you.